Hi. So, a little context for how I even started writing my main book here. It initially was made for D&D. Like, the whole setting, I had created it for a potential D&D campaign, you know? Like, I knew I wouldn't commit to it, but I thought it would be fun just to see if I can actually just, like, create a world specifically for D&D, right? And I played around with it. I made some characters, for potential story purposes. And then I thought, wait, I could just write a whole story about this. And that is what I ended up doing. But the influence is still, there, Like, if you know what to look for, you can kind of be like, okay, I see how this is influenced by D&D. But, I hope it's subtle enough. But, it's fine. I'm not hiding that or whatever. Having that said, something that I've been thinking about for a long while now, years, is how would a D&D character sheet look for them? And I never really got around to doing it. So I thought, hey, it would be fun maybe if I made a whole video out of it. It's very niche. I realize this is extremely niche, but it is my channel, so I do whatever I want, and I want to do a video about me making a character sheet for my main character. So yeah, that is what I'm gonna be doing, and I'll see you at the end. Okay, so we're starting with the main character, Quillen. Yeah. Okay, so he is a human and a wizard. Obviously, there's no other class that he could be. He's a wizard. And obviously, he's gonna be from the transmutation school, because he is a transmutationist. Then the background, we're gonna have a sage background, because yeah, this obviously it's this character really is easy to kind of construct, I think, in D&D. So yeah, I mean, it's pretty obvious. Then with the alignment, I really thought about it, and here's this chart. And I think neutral good fits the best here. A lot can be said about the D&D charts, alignment charts, and it's not the best thing. It's 9 alignments. That's not a lot. So, but hey, we're going with it. Okay. Before anything else, I need to determine his level. And I feel like I need to explain myself first a little here. So, the whole point of his character is that he's really good. He's an incredible mage, right? That's the point. He's a prodigy in transmutation. And he was one, from a pretty early age. And even though he's, only 28 now, 29, I don't know, one of the two. He's, kind of peaked. He doesn't really improve much skill-wise over the story, because he's already very high up, right? He's already done way beyond any other transmutationist. So it's that's not the point of his character arc. His character arc isn't about him getting stronger physically. So I think I'm gonna give him level 18. It's not gonna be maxed out, because that would be too much. But at level 18 for the wizard, you get spell mastery. And it's you achieve such mastery over certain spells, you can cast them at will. And I feel you should have spell mastery. So yeah, obviously he's not 20 would be too much. There's always room for improvement, but 18, I feel I can justify 18. So we're gonna go with 18. Okay, so now for the fun part, the stats here. I thought about them, and so strength, it's average. He is an average guy. He's an average guy. He doesn't work out, but he's not feeble in any way. So the same for dexterity. Also, there's not much to comment on. He's not a fighter, but he's also fine. But now with constitution. So constitution is a very tricky stat, because it would make sense for him to have 7, because
he has a really bad constitution. Like, canonically, essentially, when you use magic in this world, like, it kind of poisons you. Like, it's a poison. And if you are like careful with it, if you don't overexert yourself, then, you know, you can kind of be fine, like, physically for a long while. But because he has overused magic a lot, like, he almost died from it once, and then he actually died from it, he fucked up his constitution. And I mean, like, he was revived, but I feel like his whole body's just being held together with sticks and glue. So, but I can't give him 7 because 7 would be like -2. And if I had -2, then for each level, he would have -2 to his constitution. And he's a wizard. He already has low constitution, like low hit points. I mean, like hit points, right? And if I had -2 for each level, like, he would be horribly low, right? So I'm gonna give him a 9. That will be -1. And already that's gonna add up. Like, you will see, like, the -1 at level 18 is gonna add up. For intelligence, he's gonna have max. He's gonna be maxed out on intelligence. Because that's his whole thing. Again, that's his whole thing, is that he's really fucking smart. Like, he knows his shit. Like, he's a walking library. Not even an encyclopedia. Just the whole ass library. So I think intelligence 20 just makes sense. Now, wisdom. I have an issue with wisdom here. Because why is medicine next to wisdom? Why is medicine a wisdom stat? Shouldn't that also be intelligence? Because isn't that also knowledge based? Like, because he knows medicine really well, but it's a wisdom stat. And insight, perception, survival, animal handling, like, he's not good at that. He's not very insightful. Like, he likes to think he's insightful, but he's not. He's not, guys. Like, he has rolled some very low insight checks on some people and then was surprised by why are they acting the way that they are acting. I did not see this coming. And I'm like, well, maybe if you rolled better. Perception is also kind of like average. Like, I wouldn't say that's something that he particularly excels at. Survival, I'm like, I don't know. But like, the medicine is the only thing that's kind of being like, oh god. So for that alone, I'm gonna give him 14, which is like, it's above average, but now charisma. He's very charismatic. Like, that's a thing that he definitely uses a lot in his everyday life. That is interesting. I think I'm gonna give him 17. So that's still a +3, but it's like a high +3. I think that makes sense. Now, he's a human, and I'm just gonna go with like the standard variant human. Like, I'm not gonna do anything more interesting. 2 different ability scores. I'm not gonna do anything with ability scores from here on out. So I'm just gonna ignore any like increases. So, about feats. I don't know if this is like common practice, but in the games that I've played, instead of ability score improvements at like certain levels, like, we could choose to take feats. So that's what I'm gonna do. Only I'm gonna like assume I took 1 ability score improvement for intelligence, because I don't think, because it's impossible to roll like 20 when you're rolling stats. I'm just gonna say that I took 1 skill improvement, so that would be 20. And everything else, I'm gonna use feats, right? So for feats, let's first just finish off with the skills. So I can proficiency 1 of skill, and also with wizard, I get just use 2 from these, right? So I'm gonna choose here Arcana and Medicine, which will give me expertise in Arcana, actually, because my Sage background grants me, I'm not playing him, grants him Arcana and History. So he's gonna have expertise in Arcana, which makes sense. He is a nerd, and History. And for his human skill, I'm gonna do Persuasion, because he is pretty persuasive, I would like to think. Now for feats, I'm gonna do Linguist, because he's good at languages. Then we're also gonna have Prodigy, because he's a prodigy. That only makes sense. Sometimes the feats are like, yeah, this only makes sense, right? Then I'm also just gonna have Skilled, because that also makes sense. And the last one, I'm gonna have Magic Initiate, because I don't have enough spells apparently. Like he needs more spells. Like why not, right? Why not? So languages. From human, he can speak common and one other language. So we're just gonna put like Sylvan. Then linguist gives me 3 languages of my choice. So we're just gonna go. It doesn't really matter because none of these languages exist, but we're just assuming. And then my background sage also gives me 2 languages. So we're just gonna like all the languages. So just, you know. Then you gain 1 skill proficiency of your choice, 1 tool proficiency of your choice, and 1 fluency in 1 language of your choice. So there's another language here. Okay, great. I don't know, again, whatever. It's kind of whatever. Okay, then 1 tool proficiency. It's gonna be alchemist tools, obviously, because, well, he is an alchemist technically. And for the skill, I'm gonna do nature, because he is good at nature stuff also. Now, skilled proficiency in 3 skills of my choice, or tools. So it's gonna be deception, intimidation, and tinker's tools, because he does tinker with things. Like, not commonly, it's not a thing that he often does, but he did make a magical typewriter, and I feel like, come on, that's a tinkerer thing. I mean, a bit of an artificer-esque. Oh, and I fucking forgot to, there's a prodigy, there's 1 skill which is proficiency and expertise. I think I'm gonna put that expertise into medicine. I think those are all the skills, I think. Just gonna put everything down real quick. Oh, and I also have fucking intelligence and wisdom saving throws. I have Flestrin proficiency, so like he has such stupid, like, wizard has like proficiencies in weapons, daggers, darts, slings, course. Why can't it just be simple weapons? I'm just gonna put simple weapons and because I can't be bothered. Anyway, spell save, C16, spell attack +8. He's not wearing any armor, so it's gonna be like 10, right? Like, I think that's, yeah, so average at fighting. Oh my gosh. Okay, let's do hit points. I think I'm just gonna do like the average, it's like 1d6 per wizard level or 4. I think I'm just gonna use 4. I'm not gonna roll. But also it's so funny because at level 1 he has 5 hit points. Now we're gonna calculate 68. So he would have 68 hit points plus 5 if he had 0 in constitution, but he has -1. So that's -17. So in total, he would have 56 hit points at level 18. Okay. He knows 5 cantrips and 23 spells. Because I haven't played wizards before, so imagine my surprise when I realized that they know a lot of... I knew they knew a lot of spells, but god damn, that's a lot of spells. And that's not counting like the extra spells you get from like other stuff, so... Yeah, that's fine. That's totally okay. So yeah, from equipment, it's like starting equipment. Again, I don't think that's very relevant when you're level 18, so... He would have an arcane focus though, like he has a ring. That's like an actual arcane focus in the story, so that's one thing. Okay, let's do arcane features, because he would have all of them. And then we will get to spells, which is gonna be interesting. So the thing is, what's interesting about like the spells and like the abilities is that the magic is pretty similar to like D&D in my world. Like, an argument could be made, but it's still not the same. Like, you can't do things with my magic that you can do with D&D, like minor alchemy. Starting at second level, when you select the school, you can temporarily alter the physical properties of one non-magical object, changing it from one substance into another. And like, that's not, you can do that like in my world, but that's not a level 2 sort of skill, you know? Like, that's not a level 2 sort of skill, but it's a level 2 here, so. Or like transmuter stone. Starting at 6th level, you can spend 8 hours creating a transmuter stone that stores transmutation magic. It can give you dark vision and increase the speed, proficiency on constitution, resistance to like elemental damage. That's not a thing that you could be able to do, I don't think. That's not, I mean, maybe, but it's definitely not something that like Will would be able to do, because that's it's too like focused on fighting, and he doesn't do combat. And then at level 14, Master Transmuter. You can cast Raise the Dead. That's a funny spell for him to know. Like, okay, I will say that's funny. It is conceivable that he could be able to do like all of these abilities in some form. It's very like, you'd have to stretch the lot. But we're going with it. Okay, so he technically knows 7 cantrips because we have 5 just from him being a wizard, and we have 2 from having the magic initiate feat. Okay, so to explain a little of how I chose the spells, I essentially chose those spells that he either did like actually performed in the story, or I know that he maybe didn't do it on page, but like it is within reason to assume that he could do that spell. For example, there are some like even level 1 spells like Expeditious Retreat, I think, right, which is just like your speed increases. He couldn't do that because that's not how the magic works, right? So I didn't pick that spell. But like a spell like Detect Magic is a thing that you can do in this world, and a thing that he also can. So I could pick that spell. So that's kind of like how I chose the spells. I'm gonna go over the spells a bit closer in a second here, but I just want you to see that most of the spells that he knows are transmutation spells, because obviously he's a transmutation mage. But he would also know some enchantment spells, which in my world they call charm magic, where you just charm people. He would also know some illusion spells, some abjuration, and it's labeled as necromancy, but I would argue that's more... So the funny thing is that some spells here are listed as like, oh, this is the transmutation school of magic, right? But in my world, that would be like a different school. But it's irrelevant. It's just like he specializes in transmutation, but he also knows like canonically a good deal of enchantment magic, some illusions, and I guess necromancy. So yeah, cantrips, mending, just repairing simple tears. That's obviously something he could do. Message. It's a bit of a, but it's like a very simple telepathy. That's how I'm interpreting it. And because he can do telepathy, I'm putting that here. Minor illusion. Again, it's simple illusion stuff. And he also knows how to do illusions. Mold earth. Now, it's interesting because I picked a lot of spells for specifically manipulating earth because he does that a lot in like the second book. That's like a cantrip, and then we'll go into more complicated spells later, right? Then we have prestidigitation. Yeah, also simple enough to do. Spare the dying. Now this is like, it's a cantrip in D&D, but you would need to actually be really good at like, in this case, I would label this as a transmutation spell, not a necromancy spell in my world. And in D&D, it's necromancy. You would actually need to be like really good at transmutation, specifically biotransmutation, to stop someone from dying. Like maybe their heart stopped and you want to restart it. Like you could do that if you like really understood how the heart worked, right? And you could like bypass things. And that is a thing that he could do, but that is not a cantrip. Like, that would be such a high-level spell. It's a cantrip here, so I guess. And thaumaturgy. Again, just like minor tricks. Yeah, he could do that. Then we have level 1 spells. Charm Person, enchantment. He does actually use charm magic to, like, deceive people or get them to do what he wants. Like, a number of times in the story, but it's like not for like his own personal, well, I guess it is. Again, it's like, I wouldn't call it a first level spell in my world, but it's pretty accurate to what he can do. Detect magic, also something that he canonically can do, even though he doesn't really do it, but he talks about doing it. So disguise self, he does this. I call it glamour. So he's pretty good at it, so he does do this. Inflict wounds. Now he doesn't do this, but knowing that he could do biotransmutation and could just tear through flesh if he wanted to, I feel like that's something that he could do. Silent image, also illusion. Like, he doesn't do a lot of illusion magic, but he does high enough. When he does do illusion magic, it's high enough that you can assume he can do simple stuff too. So that's the case here too. Sleep. Sleep is a spell that he commonly uses on Andra for in place of anesthesia. So that's a spell that he commonly uses. So knock is an interesting spell because in the story later on, he does use transmutation to unlock doors, but it's not in the same way as it's described here. He just, manipulates the deadbolt to be like, like he just mangles the lock, so it's a bit simpler than here, but it's, close enough. Maximilian's Earthen Grip. So that is a spell that he does in a previous draft. It's a scene that I took out, but I count it as he can do it. Suggestion. I kind of lump it together with charm person. Like, when you charm a person, you can do suggestion, and it's on the same level. So that's why I'm kind of picked both, and he does do that. Then Dispel Magic. I don't think he does it in this book, but he does do it in the second one and in a previous draft, so that's also a thing. Erupting Earth. Again, that comes back to him being able to just manipulate the terrain. And now we have level 4. So first spell is Fabricate, and it's like converting raw materials into products of the same material. And I don't think he does that on page, but it is something he could definitely do if he wanted to. So more than cannons, I don't know, Private Sanctum, just a Private Sanctum. I don't think he does it, but people around him do it, and he's on the same level as those people. So he also could definitely do it. Stone Shape, you touch, also just a lot of these spells are just transmutation spells that maybe he doesn't do it on page, but he can definitely do it because he's a transmutation mage. So that's where this falls. And then level 5, Mislead. You become invisible at the same time that an illusory double of yours appears where you are standing. That is genuinely a spell that he does in the story. There is a scene where he actually just does this spell. So obviously I had to include it. Modify Memory. He doesn't do it, but he talks about being able to do it. Just not as good as some other people, but he can do it. So I'm counting that as, he would have that spell. Telekinesis is just... So it's so funny because here's a level 5 spell, but in my stories would be lower, level 2, maybe level 3, definitely not level 5. Obviously he could if he wanted to. Transmute Rock, again, the same. You can transmute it. He could transmute it if he wanted to. Now, 6th level. Flesh to Stone. You attempt to turn one creature that you can see within range into stone. So he doesn't do that. He doesn't turn anyone to stone, but because he can manipulate stone, and he can manipulate the human body, it stands to reason he could turn the human body into stone. And the other way around would be more difficult, but because it's always easier to descale rather than upscale. But Flesh to Stone, he could do it if he wanted to. Move Earth, again, we can manipulate terrain. Level 7, Etherealness. Now, this is an interesting spell because he doesn't use this in the first one, but he does kind of do a similar variation of the spell in the second book, and it's not level 7, it would be level 9. This is way more difficult to do in my world. They don't even do any ethereal plane stuff in my story. That's not a thing that people know you can do, so it's a pretty huge deal that he does do it at one point, but we're not gonna get into it. Then Project Image. You create an illusory copy of yourself that lasts for the duration. That's kind of similar with Mislead spell, only I guess it's more advanced. He does remark that he knows how to manipulate his form really well, both physically, in the transmutation manner and also in the illusion manner. So it's a thing that he could do. And level 8 telepathy. Like, it's interesting that it's level 8 because, like, I guess, but he does do telepathy. Like, this is a thing that he actively does do several times, but I wouldn't call it level 8 in my story, so. And for level 9, we have True Polymorph. Because that's the only spell that, like, actually makes sense. Like, truly makes sense. Like, yeah, this would be a level 9 spell that he would have. Because it's about, like, turning creatures into other creatures. And we're gonna ignore the objects into creatures and creatures into objects because that's, I mean, that's not a thing that ever happens. Creatures into creatures. Like, that's specifically a thing that he's known for in this world. Like, maybe not like full creatures, you know, but maybe if you really tried, you could maybe do creatures into creatures, but I mean, that would take forever and a lot of studying, but like, he could, I think. But generally, like, well, for people who have like magical parts, like magical creature parts, like, he changes them into like human parts. So that is a thing that he does. And it is permanent. So the spells just make sense. It just makes sense. Yeah. I think like one of the abilities, like I think one of the something also gives me like the polymorph spell, but it's like not irrelevant. So yeah, so those are the spells that I picked for him, having in mind like what he actually does and what he's capable of. So those would go here, but okay, it just barely fit. So yeah, that's the full fucking like list. That's the full list. I'm not gonna put like the favorite spells because I feel like it's the same with like here. It's like for combat. Like I guess, I mean, what would be his favorite spells? Wait, I wanna put it now. I'm gonna put mending and interpret it as just like low level simple transmutation stuff, just kind of like altering it a little, like that would be a thing. Charm person, I'm gonna put charm person, but it would be like at the same level as suggestion. Then this guy's self, it does use that often. Sleep, fabricate probably, honestly, because of how often he uses it. Telepathy. Like, I know it's level 8, but like, you know, just you wouldn't use it very often, I guess, in this world. Like with the weapons, like it doesn't have any on him at any time, so I don't see a point in giving him any weapons. And again, backpack storage, just again, I don't think it's relevant to put like starting gear. Magic items. Would he have any magic items? He only has his ring as a magic item, like his like arcane focus, if you will. So I don't think that counts. He wouldn't have anything really interesting on him. I realized I'm fucking stupid. He has... Where did they look that I got plus... Oh god. This is why I can't multitask. Because suddenly I think that at level 18 you have a +3 in proficiency. Like, am I stupid? It's +6. I'm so sorry you had to see that. +17 in Arcana. Holy shit, I mean, that checks out, but holy fucking shit. 14 in medicine, yeah, checks out also. 19 spell save, yeah, okay, yeah, that makes more sense. Jesus Christ, that makes more sense. Okay, so I think I'm done with this. I think I'm done with his sheet. Unless I'm missing something, and like obviously if you wanted to actually make him like usable in game, like you would have to fill out more. But it's just not very I don't see a point in doing that. So yeah, that would be the sheet for my main character, Quill.
And that's my main character sheet done. Now, I've also filmed me doing a character sheet for my like secondary main character. But when I was editing, I realized that it would be so long. The whole video would be like near an hour. And I'm like, it's already such a niche video idea. I don't want to make it too long also. Like, I might post it as a separate video, but like, I'm not sure. Maybe, you know, if fancy strikes me. But yeah, this took, I wanted to say longer than I thought, but no, it took approximately as long as I thought it would. And by that, I mean like several hours. But it was like very fun. I especially liked choosing the spells because I really had to think about, okay, what would be possible in my world and how could I sort of make it seem possible? Because I didn't want to just do whatever, just choose whatever spells, you know, a level 18 wizard would have for convenience or whatever. I wanted to actually be like, okay, this character, what spells would he have if he were a D&D character, knowing what he knows in the story. So that I feel like is a fun exercise and really show that even though my magic system was inspired by D&D's, it is still pretty different. It made me feel better. I will say this made me feel better about my magic system. They're like, okay, it's not too obvious that this is inspired by D&D, so okay, yeah, it's fine, we're fine. But yeah, I don't know, I can't judge like such a high level character, like how he would do in game, because again, it's very like the spell list is very curated for specifically the character in the story. So I don't know how well he would do like in game. And also the abysmal hit points, like, oh god. And he doesn't even have any spells for like extra armor or hit points or like, he would not do well in combat. I feel like he would die very easily, which to be fair is accurate. He is easily killable. You know, like, hey, if a man died once, he can do it again. Honestly, when I thought about it, the majority of my cast would be wizards, except for the second main character, Endra, who would be a warlock. So that's why, like, I'm like, I kind of do want to post the other one also, because it is different. It is interesting. Yeah, maybe we'll see. Anyway, we'll see. So yeah, thank you for watching. If you watched this, if you got to this point, I appreciate you. And I don't know, don't forget to like, subscribe, all that stuff. And I will see you next time. Bye.